Creepers left to rise, buzz like crazy. Everybody's trying to stimulate it. Spiders in the mirror and things can't be right. Back to the scene of a Friday night, to a blessed collision still frozen tight. Spear drinkers, Cupid and the sound of earthless chime. And why did you argue? We're dreaming of those eyes, the best part of my life. And when we make love, babe, don't make a sound. The clock won't turn around. Ooh, you turn around. 2,000 little fires. And ooh, your siren call is spreading. Slowing things down when I wanted to race. Catching up again when you try to chase. Feels like we're playing space. You always find a way to make up, right? Even when we're such a fly. Even when things just run high. You gotta soften up your sleeves, girl. I'll never enough, babe. Dreaming of those eyes.
Hello my friends, welcome back to my channel. It is feeling almost spring-like today. Like I've got the blinds shut, I'm in my kitchen, facing my kitchen window. And it's very bright and sunny in here, which is exciting! But also it's still February and I live in Utah and it's not unusual for us to get snow, except for the last few years, very late into the season. Anyway, hello, welcome to another vlog. And I have a new flavor of tea here. When I ordered my Adagio teas, like I've made 2 orders since I had their advent calendar at Christmas time because I loved it so much. They sent me, I ordered one around New Year's and they sent me like a sample packet for drinks or teas that were based on like alcoholic drinks. So this one is actually Fuzzy Navel, which I think is probably going to delight every rebellious teenager's heart that grew up in the 90s. If that's you, let me know. It wants to keep focusing on my chandelier. Maybe I shall scoot over. There. Now hopefully it won't be annoying like that. Anyway, so let's do a little tea tasting. We haven't had one of those in a while. That's really good, honestly. It just tastes like peach, a little like lemony too. It's very good. Very refreshing. Honestly, I think this would be really good iced. And quite honestly, it is giving me Fuzzy Navel wine cooler vibes. So, interesting. Alright, so today is Tuesday when I'm starting this reading vlog, and I wanted to have something to say before I started a reading vlog. So I'm in the middle of a couple of books, and the first one I'm going to talk about is this book by Avalay. This is the beginning of a new series for her, the Good Girl series, and I am this far into it. So this book comes out February 22nd. It's her new historical romance, and seriously, look at that cover. Isn't it gorgeous? I love that cover so much. So this is very fun so far. I'm really, really enjoying it. The setup of this is basically that the hero has a twin brother, and they are friends with a man who they try to get him to not, like, leave his bride at the altar, basically. He's engaged, it's his wedding day to this woman, and they're actually deeply in love, but he has a lot of, like, this groom, not the hero, has a lot of, like, self-loathing. He doesn't really think that he is good enough for the woman that he is going to marry, and so he's, like, basically in a pit of despair that day. And so the hero, Ransom, sort of Kieran Ransom sort of takes it upon himself to, because of some things he's seen that happened with his parents who were in a similar situation and how much they hate each other now, he takes it upon himself to basically try and get him to just leave her, that she'll be better off. So he does that. Then, of course, his parents, the groom's parents, find out. Kieran and his twin brother's parents find out, and they all basically say, okay, we're going to cut you off from all of your fortune, from all of your money. You are going to be dead to us unless you settle down, quit being a rake, and marry a respectable lady. And Kieran has a reputation for definitely being a bad boy, a rake, a playa, a party man, and he, however, needs his money, so he agrees. So what he does is he knows of the groom that he dissuaded from marrying that young woman. He knows his sister, so this is a brother's best friend romance in a historical setting. He knows her sister, and she's a very respectable lady, and he makes a deal with her that if she helps him get a respectable woman to agree to marry him so he can get his fortune back, then she wants from him, take her to, like, London's underbelly and show her parties, orgies, gambling hells, and things like that. So he reluctantly agrees to her terms because he knows that's the only way he's going to get her help. And it's very good. It's very fun. It's very fast-paced. Honestly, the pages are flying by for me. I'm really, really enjoying it. And I think that something Avalay is doing really, really well here is she created these characters to have a lot of sexual tension and chemistry. Like, they're very attracted to one another, but they've never seen each other in another light other than this is an attractive person, And Kieran has, forever been like, yes, she's very beautiful and I'm attracted to her, but that's my best friend's sister and she's a respectable lady and I am a scoundrel, so I cannot have anything to do with her. So it's really interesting to see him when he takes her to, like, London underbelly, to the gaming hells, when he sees qualities in her that he admires and that he finds attractive as a person. So I really, really love how Ava is balancing that so well here, in that they have a lot of chemistry, they have a lot of attraction towards one another, but she's so good at creating these moments of, like, these little flashes of insight that they have about one another, where you can completely see, like, that unlocking, or this veil is lifted over their eyes, where they see that person as more than just a body or a face, more as just someone who's attractive. And I freaking love that so much. And I think that that is working so well here, because I expect this to be pretty high heat based on what Avalay has said about the book and what I've read from her before. So I'm very, very happy to see, specifically Kieran, see these moments of, what's her name? Celeste. When he sees her, like, discovering how to gamble and how she's, like, still trying so hard to do what's right, but she has this desire to, like, be her own person and make choices for herself when she's never been able to before. And it's just really working for me. It's very well done. It's just beautiful. It's a very compelling story. I'm really, honestly loving it. So that's an update on this. I will have this finished in this vlog for sure to update you on. For sure. And then the other book that I am reading is Annie's Song by Katherine Anderson. So this is our Rake Appreciation Society book for February, and by the time this vlog goes out, we'll already have had our live show, so I'm going to give you my full, unfettered thoughts on this book, because I'm 25% of the way into this book, and I'm not loving it a whole lot. And it doesn't have anything to do with the writing. The writing is good. I've read Katherine Anderson before. I read a lot of her, like, contemporary romances in, like, the early 2000s. She was a favorite of mine. Like, I would just pick up, me and my sister would trade her books back and forth. They were always, like, contemporary westerns, and us being the hick horse girls that we are, like, we just ate those up. And I loved them. So the writing is very vivid. It's very vivid. And the subject matter is what's difficult for me. And I don't know, it's beyond subject matter. It's just the scenario that this character is in, the heroine is in, the relationship she's having with everyone and how they view her. It's just painful. Like, this book is extremely painful to read, and it is very heavy, emotionally heavy, but not in the kind of way that I enjoy. Like, when I want an emotionally heavy book, I don't really want it to be centered around somebody who has a disability, you know? And I feel like this book is probably going to be especially sensitive to me because Annie is deaf. And nobody knows that she's deaf. Annie is the heroine. No one knows that she's deaf. No one realizes that. She had a fever as a young girl. And ever since then, she's been unable to communicate. And so her parents, the doctor, everyone assumes that she is, like, basically mentally handicapped, has the mental capacity of a child, that she is dumb. Like, they use some pretty... They do... I mean, this book was written in 96, right? So it definitely wasn't, like... you know, it was a product of its time. There are words that are in here that are used to describe the heroine that we would never say today, you know? And so I'm not judging it on the words that are used, right? Because I recognize this is a 25-year-old book, and it was, you know, that unfortunately at the time wasn't frowned upon to use, like, the R word and things like that. So the thing that, so I have a son with hearing loss, and so anytime I come across a book that has hearing loss or deafness represented, it's a sensitive subject for me. It's a very sensitive subject for me. And I also don't enjoy reading it. Honestly, I kind of tend to avoid those because it's not necessarily triggering. It's just very painful because it's so close to home, you know? So Annie is raped in the beginning. It's not graphically depicted, but it is mentioned that she's raped by a group of young men who literally see her as nothing other than something for their pleasure, you know? And it's just one man. There were some men that stood up for her, tried to stand up for her, but that one powerful man that raped her was just too powerful and they wouldn't stand against him, you know? So she ends up becoming pregnant, and the man that raped her is despicable, but his brother is a very stand-up man, and he is not going to stand by and just let Annie get sent somewhere. Like, her parents sort of believe that if this baby is born, that it will have her same handicaps, they believe, her same mental handicaps, and that will be a poor reflection on them, right? So there's a big overarching theme in this book of people in a position of power. Like, her dad is a judge. There's talk about, like, religious leaders, like ministers, of basically men in power who put this persona, or have this persona on, where they are, you know, very likable, that they are always doing the right thing, that they are looking out for other people, you know? But I feel like Katherine Anderson is really showing you that that's actually not who these people are. And I think that is a big reflection on people in power, men in position. I'm picking on men because I think that is what the story is telling here. In a position of power, or who have some sort of social influence, who have this persona of being just so likable and so wonderful, but you peel back that layers and you see them at home and they are despicable and they do not care about their family, and it's just... So that is a theme that I just don't enjoy reading, because I think that most of us have had experiences like similar to that type of person in real life, you know? And it's an uncomfortable place to be in. So Annie's parents are terrible to her. They are literally horrible to her. That's another thing where I feel like this is just not enjoyable for me to read, is watching her mother specifically, how she treats her. And, you know, she acts, or she says, like, again, keep in mind, I'm 25% of the way into this book, so things could change. But the mother's response to Annie is never about taking care of Annie or showing love to Annie. It's always about whatever is wrong with Annie is going to reflect poorly on me, and so I can't let people see that, you know? And it's just so sad, honestly. It is so heartbreakingly sad to see how her parents treat her, society treats her. She ends up marrying the man who raped her, his brother, because he believes that, you know, this is his chance to have a baby. He believes that he's sterile, he can't have kids, and he wants to do the right thing by Annie because his brother was such a complete scum of the earth, you know? But he still believes that Annie is basically a child-level intelligence. And so it also is a little uncomfortable hearing, very briefly so far, his thoughts on her body and how attracted he is to her, and it just... I think it's a little gross, you know? So I don't have a good opinion of this book at this point. I know that it's very well loved. And I suspect that I know there are going to be some beautifully emotional scenes. But my question is, will they, for me personally, will those beautiful scenes be powerful and strong enough to overcome my distaste that I have for this book at this point? That's the thing that I'm really curious to see if that's going to happen, because they're going to have to be completely stellar. You know, they're going to have to be amazing. And I believe that they can be in there, mostly because of how much this book is so well loved. But I don't see it yet, but I know they're there. So anyway, this is where I'm going to leave this clip, this very long clip. And I'm very interested to see what my final thoughts are on this book, and I will keep y'all updated if or when that happens, you know, because I know the beautiful scenes are coming. I know they are. But it's tough when you have already had, I don't know, but then again, you know, like some books like that that take you to almost like a pit of despair type of area where you just absolutely don't see how this book can be redeemed. Some of my favorite books are like that, where you just don't know how you're ever going to get on board with this romance, with this couple, with these characters, and then the author does it and transforms it for you. So I'm really hoping that that's what's going to happen, you know, and I think that if it does, that will be a very powerful reading experience for me, and I adore books like that, even though it's painful. So yeah, anyway, that's what I'm reading. A lot of historical romance, which is wonderful. I'll keep y'all updated as I progress. Good morning, my friends. Welcome back to another vlog clip. Today's actually Friday. Several days have passed since I filmed the first clip, and this week I had good intentions of filming a bunch of videos and vlogging every single day, and then just life got in the way, you know, so that didn't happen. But I'm here to talk about some books. Last night was the Rake Appreciation Society live show, and I felt like it was really great. I felt like there were a lot of different, very much like Ravishing the Heiress, which was a huge live show too. We had a lot of people with different opinions, with different feelings, and that is always so fun, because one of the reasons that I wanted to do a book club is because I wanted to discuss books. And I didn't want it to, I mean, it's fine if it is that way, but I think that in discussing books, in picking them apart, as I've heard it been said before, nitpicking, I don't think that it's nitpicking. I feel like it's really just discussing. We're discussing the things about books that work for us and what doesn't. And I hope that everyone had a good time last night. I know that it's tough when you have a really strong emotional reaction to a book and other people don't. And even if they're ambivalent towards it, or also like they really don't like it, like that's really hard. You know, I definitely have books like that where I feel like I'm the only person who didn't like this book that everyone else loved. And I felt like that person last night. There were definitely I felt like it was pretty evenly split. There were a lot of people who had similar feelings to me, and not exactly, but you know, we're able to see things worthy of discussion, because that's really honestly, that's why I even have a channel in the first place. Stop focusing on that painting back there. That's why I have a channel in the first place, is because I want to talk about books. Do I need to move? This is nuts. I'm sorry. Because I want to talk about the books more than just gushing about them. And I do that sometimes, right? And some books don't lend themselves to discussion very easily. You know, some books you don't really have a lot of things to break down and talk about and figure out why this worked and why this didn't. And that's part of the fun of reading and talking about them with other readers, is because other people pick up on things that maybe you didn't, or you pick up on things that other people didn't, and it's just interesting to me. I remain completely fascinated by the emotional response that books provoke from some people and not from others. And I think that especially in the social media sphere, if you have any type of a book platform, if it's blogging, even if you just use Goodreads, there's this tendency, and I'm guilty of this too, right? There's this tendency to get a little hurt if someone disagrees with our opinion. But I think it's just such a good experience to talk about books, you know? And maybe that's because I took so many literature classes in college, you know, like probably a lot of us did. And that was the name of the game. It was breaking down the books, talking about them, why it worked, why it didn't, and I don't know. Anyway, that was a long ramble. So Annie's Song, I ended up giving 2 stars. And this is something that is interesting that I want to talk a little bit about, is that initially after I finished Annie's Song, I was like, feeling like, well, maybe I'll be a little generous and I'll give it 3 stars because there were some good parts that I enjoyed. But the longer that I thought about it, the more that I realized this book just overall left a bad taste in my mouth. And for me, I couldn't rate it 3 because the enjoyment level for me wasn't there. A 3-star book is still a book that I enjoyed. It's something that I look back on fondly instead of looking back on and like, I never want to touch that book again, you know? And so there were a lot of things that came, and like we talked about Annie's Song at length in the Reiki Appreciation Society live show, which is on my channel. It's probably the video right before this because I only had that and my reading vlog go out last week. I struggled with Annie's Song, and I want to be super clear that the things that I struggled with were not a reflection of the book being 25 years old. I feel like if you've watched my Bodice Ripper vlog, you know that I am looking at older books trying to see what I can enjoy about them right now, right? So anything that is like a marker of its time, and Annie's Song specifically has quite a lot of those in there with just the language that it uses and, you know, the talk about Annie's deafness and disability, like it's definitely a product of its time. Also, there's also a big thread in that book about women's bodies, and specifically pregnant women's bodies, which if I was going to be super critical and judge it on the standards of a book written today, I would add those in there. But I'm not going to do that because it was written 25 years ago, and I do not expect Katherine Anderson to have had the level of awareness that we have right now for things that we want and don't want to read about, you know? That was a product of its time. But, so when I say I gave it 2 stars, I am absolutely not saying it's because the things that are problematic today that maybe weren't back then. You know what I mean? So, the things that I took issue with were largely, the biggest issue for me was just how she had such a level of a childhood mentality for so long. And the hero believed her to have the mentality of a child for so long, but he was continuously, like, you know, lusting after her, which I do want to say, like, she does have the body of a woman, so I'm not, like, saying that's terrible. I think that's a natural human reaction, right? But it was a bit distasteful to read about that often on page, so I didn't love that. But even after the hero learns that she's deaf, the heroine is just so naive. And I don't know that naive is even the right word, because that implies that she should have some knowledge, whereas her knowledge of the world basically stopped when she was a very young child. What was she, like 6 or 7 years old? She had to have been younger than that, because her level of awareness of things that happen in the world was so small. Like, she didn't know how babies were made. She didn't know how she was going to give birth. She believed she was going to lay an egg. That's how she was going to have her baby for a very, very, very long portion of the book, well past the time when they realized, or when Alex realized that she was deaf and not just, didn't have this mentality of a child. So I know not everyone felt that way. I know a lot of people that wasn't a thing for them, but I just had a really hard time with them as a romance because she was presented to be a child, in her mind. She was, even after they knew she was deaf, like she would still play pretend and have tea parties, and her level of awareness, her knowledge of sex was not there at all, and I feel like it's quite common for readers of historical romance to get irritated with very naive heroines, and this is the most extreme example of an innocent heroine that I've ever read before. So I think that it's a very difficult task that this author took on to tell this story, because I can see why she needed to create this sense of naivete or innocence around her, because she literally doesn't know anything. But at the same time, it just did not work for me personally at all, because it just felt icky to me that the hero was sort of pushing for sex so often when she did not even know what that was, It felt like he was seducing a child, if I'm going to be completely honest. That's how it felt to me. So that was the number one thing that made this book just not enjoyable for me, because I couldn't get past that and see their romance at all because of that. Another thing, I didn't love the third act conflict. That wouldn't have been anything that made it a 2-star. That would have maybe, if I was loving it up until that point, that would have probably took it to a 4-star, So that wasn't a deal breaker, although I didn't love that, and I talked about that at length in our live show. So if you're wondering what the third act conflict was that I had an issue with, it's in the live show discussion. But also, like, the biggest thing for me is just that this book was just painful to read. It was painful, and the type of pain that I don't want to read. I don't want to read about abusive parents to their daughter, ever. Because that is just something that I cannot even imagine. I know it happens. I cannot read about a parent abusing their child, I'm a mother of 3 kids, and there is nothing in this world that would ever get me to physically abuse them. There's a new dog out here and it keeps whining, if you heard that. Anyway, I don't want to just carry on about Annie's song forever, but I feel like it's important to let you know that those are things that I had an issue with. And like I talked about in my Hooked vlog, where I was talking about that book and how if you are so invested in a certain aspect of the story, then you're not going to notice things that are flaws, because all books have flaws, right? So if you are really invested in Alex, the hero, him as a hero, if that is, you're invested in that, you're not going to notice the flaws. And that's okay, because we all do that with books. We're all able, when we love something, when we love a story, we're very good at not noticing things that are wrong, So, anyway, that's all I have to say about that. I don't want to, it's tough when you approach a book that is so well loved, like Annie's song. Well loved for years and years and years, but it just didn't work for me. I honestly feel like Never Seduces Scott by Maya Banks has a similar storyline, and it was done much, much better than this. But anyway, so yeah, those are my final thoughts on Annie's song. I'm very sad about it. I really wanted to love it, but I just didn't. There were a few things in there that were just so negative to me that I just couldn't see past them, and and that happens in books, So, anyway, now I have a tea to taste for you. We're still tasting the New Year's samplers. This one is Peach Bellini. This is an herbal tea. It's very good. This tastes, honestly, this tastes like a gummy peach. It's delicious. I have zero complaints about that. That's just peach, delightful spring, summertime, Okay, so now let's talk about the other books that I'm reading. Still carrying on with The Good Girl's Guide to Rakes. Only a few chapters ahead of where I was last time. I am going to finish this weekend. And then I'm also reading Lady Isabella's Scandalous Marriage. This is the second book in the Mackenzie series. and I'm really loving this one. So I am not quite halfway through in this. And this is basically about our hero and heroine. This is book 2 in the Mackenzie series. So the first book is The Madness of Lauren Ian Mackenzie, which is one of my favorite historical romances. I love that book so much. And this is a series that I have, I'm kind of bad at finishing series. I'm trying to get better, and I think I am getting better. But this is a series that I've been wanting to continue for a long time. So this one is about Isabella and Mackenzie, who is an artist. And in Ian, we see that they are still married, but sort of estranged. They have roles that show up in there, which was really fun to see. And we do get to see Ian and Beth in here, which is really fun. But basically, this is a second chance romance and marriage in trouble. So they have a ton of great chemistry, which I'm really, really loving. I really am interested in what exactly tore them apart and how they're going to get back together, because we do have hints about what that was. Like, there's trigger warning in here for miscarriage, and I'm assuming possibly some infidelity, but it hasn't really been explicitly stated yet. So I really don't know what this book is about. I feel like it's been talked about quite a bit when Ian was, really popular, taking BookTube and Bookstagram by storm. And I don't really want to know a lot about a book before I start it, so I don't really know exactly what's going to happen here. But I am very excited about it. This one is extremely sensual, and I'm really loving that. And I think a lot of that is because Mac wants to paint Isabella nude in his erotic painting. So this is very good. Super enjoying that. Super enjoying this. Having a good time. And I'll talk to y'all in a bit, probably just to wrap those two up. And then, yeah, I'll see y'all soon. Thanks so much for watching, and I love y'all.
The last breath of summer is blowing down our necks, and soon we'll wave goodbye to the fleeting bliss. Because you are like a tidal wave, ripping up my life and living without a trace. And you know that I'm your silent patient. You know I'm your silent patient. I've been waiting for your hands to hold me up. I'll be holding on through the winter for your kiss to wake me up. Now with the colors of spring, my heart will blossom up again. Speeding up, and with your smile, it will erupt. And I collect all I can, set aside all the supplies. Your kisses and warmness to get through winter time. Because I'm your silent patient. Listen, I'm your silent patient. I've been waiting so long for your hands to hold me up. I'll be holding
friends, welcome back. Okay, so it's the last day for the reading vlog, and I have a reading update for you. I finished Lady Isabella's Scandalous Marriage. This is the second book in the Mackenzie and McBride series. The first one is The Madness of Lordy and Mackenzie. I already talked about that. So I went into this with high expectations. I really felt like I was going to love it, and I completely did. I gave this book 5 stars. I loved it. It's a beautiful romance. It's filled with so much emotion and so much longing on both of them. The thing that I really love about this is that it's also a second chance marriage. Like, they had separated. There is talk of miscarriage in here. They're in a situation, Mac and Isabella are in a situation where they married young, and they married because they were deeply in love, but they were also really, really flawed. Like everyone is, right? And I feel like that's what appeals to me the most about this story, is that it's at the basic level, it's really a story about the ordinariness of love and life, and how do you make that work in a life, you know? And I think that's one reason why I continually come back to historical romance, because in general it does that so well, where it just shows you, and my favorite historicals are the real examples of people who are have a very, I don't know, I mean, the Mackenzies aren't necessarily ordinary, right? Like, they're a wealthy family, you know, they're Scottish, like, things are not that words are hard right now, but like the circumstances about their love, the reasons that they separated, weren't necessarily like big shocking things, you know? It wasn't anything other than they were trying to overcome flaws that they had inside of each, you know, inside themselves, that was making it difficult for them to love one another. And not to love one another, but to be happy together. They never fell out of love. This is a couple who loved each other hard, and through, you know, the tragic loss, the miscarriage, and just especially Mac's behavior, typical rake, roguish behavior, they just, and he kind of like continuously pushed her away. Like, I don't know, it was just beautiful to see them really succeed at a second chance marriage, and it was just lovely. It was absolutely lovely. It was very compelling. There was a little bit of a mystery plot in here too that was interesting. I didn't need it. You know, I feel like this is the type of story that I didn't need that extra mystery plot. Like, I was very much drawn into the story of the two of them and their journey as a couple, you know? And I think that is something that I love so much in books, when the writer can really tell you at a basic, simple level, such a simple story of two people falling in love and trying to make a relationship work, that you don't need external plot, you don't need a lot of additional drama, you just are riveted by what's happening in this story. And I think that Jennifer Ashley, handled like the push and pull of, you know, conflict and them being drawn together and then pulling back so well. Like, it never felt overdone. It never felt boring. I felt like the pacing in this was pretty much perfect. I just adored this whole thing from start to finish. It was fantastic. It was very sensual. There's so much chemistry between these two, and I just absolutely loved this. Honestly, this is right up there with Ian for me. I mean, Ian is a favorite of mine, but this book was, I think, equally as good. I just freaking loved it. So if you haven't read this book, I feel like a lot of people have, but if you haven't, definitely pick it up, because it's interesting that in my vlog last week, I talked about Jennifer Ashley's paranormal romance book, and that's what was lacking in there. It felt like just the compelling story of two people in love was missing there in that book. I didn't believe that they were in love, and I don't know if that's because she relied on the fated mates trope. I don't know if it was because she was, you know, it was the first in that series and she was sort of trying how to build the world of that paranormal fantasy world, but this book was just exceptional. I think that this is really great storytelling, honestly. Just fantastic. Loved it so much. What a great book. Okay, so there's that. And now I'm going to finish the Avalay, and I'll come back and update you once I finish that. Okay? I'll see y'all soon. Hello, my friends. Welcome back. Well, this vlog is going up late. I usually have my vlogs go up on Monday. The freaking chandelier again. There we go. I usually have my vlogs go up on Monday. You can't even see my big messy bun. But Sunday was just a day I spent with my family and did not finish the book. So I finished the book today. By the way, it's Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day, my friends. I hope you had a great day. Whether you are part of a relationship or not, I hope that you celebrated a day of love and read some good romance books, right? Also, do you love my shirt? I'm kind of obsessed with it. It's by Hello Lovely Box. I do have a discount code for them. It's in the description if you ever want to get something. Okay, so I finished The Good Girl's Guide to Rakes by Avalay, and I honestly adored this book. I gave this book 5 stars. It was fantastic. This is what I want from my modern day from historicals that are being written today. This is everything that I want in there. This had so much passion and longing and tension between these two. The huge focus of this book is that she wants to experience all of these things and have some type of choice in her life when she hasn't had that at all, because she knows that she's going to be shipped off to be married to a titled lord. Is it a lord? I can't remember. I know he's not a duke, but she's going to be like made to marry him. And so this whole book is really about her taking these opportunities that she will never have, or that she believes she will never have, and just living in the moment, embracing her sexuality, doing things that she wants to do, and finding joy in that moment. And you know, this was a big theme in Avalay's book that she wrote last year, The Older Woman, Younger Man, Waiting for a Scot Like You, which is one of my favorite historicals ever. I really love how she tackles that theme of women specifically finding joy, not even just women specifically, of our characters specifically, because the hero Kieran, that's all about what he does. He is a man who wastes no opportunity to find happiness and joy in his life, and so definitely he has a bit of a reputation for that, right? And because of the historical setting, the heroine obviously can't do that, so in, discreet ways, he takes her to gambling hells and these sort of like erotic clubs, and so that she can experience life in all facets before she is no longer able to. And honestly, it was just beautiful. I loved it. I loved their romance. It was completely believable for me. And like I said, like the way that the hero and the heroine meet in the beginning, and they have this spark of realization of, this is an attractive person, but you see beneath that, and you see who this person really is, and you start to like have that little kindle of feelings burning. Oh, I just loved it. It was so beautiful, honestly. There are just so many. I think that Avalay did something really well here, where she has a great balance of some really swoony, emotional moments in here, which are what I live for, really combined with a little bit of an erotic theme. And I just adored it. Honestly, it was fantastic. I think Ava is such an incredible writer. The way she puts words together is excellent. This was fantastic. It was everything that I wanted. I am a huge fan of this book. This has been my favorite. Well, I couldn't say that because I had some really good historicals that were released last year that I loved, but this one is probably my favorite. I mean, it's only February. This is definitely going to go on my favorites of the year list. It was fantastic. I loved it. Loved it so much. I can't stop thinking about this couple. Like the way that the hero really, like his love for her grew in a way that was like just, like their passion was a big emphasis of that, but the way that he sees who she really is when she's sort of like shedding her society persona and just letting herself be in the moment and allowing herself to enjoy things that as a lady, as a proper lady, she's been taught she should not enjoy or she should not participate in was, oh gosh, it was just beautiful. This is fantastic. I love this. I feel like if this is the direction I want historicals to head in, I think this would be very approachable for someone who is new to historical romance, who thinks maybe it's a little old-fashioned. Not that it is. Like, I love all forms of historical, but if we want to get a younger audience or new readers to embrace historical romance, I think this would be an excellent book for them. I think it's very, very easily translatable from a contemporary reader to a historical reader, and it's just an empowering, beautiful, passionate, romantic book. I loved it. So this book comes out February 22nd, so next Tuesday. I honestly had a great time reading this. I loved it. I don't have any critique, honestly. This is going to be on my favorites of the year list. adored it, and can we just appreciate the cover? It's so beautiful, right? Okay, well, I'm sorry this vlog was a little bit delayed, but it's probably long too. But I hope you all enjoyed watching it. I hope you have a wonderful week. And if you would love to leave me an emoji, feel free to leave me your favorite emoji. That would be fun. And if not, I'd love to hear your comments too. And I love y'all. I'll see y'all in my next video. Those are my meatballs I'm cooking for my lunch. See you next time.